So all I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the main storyline.
Well, here before we get into it, let me introduce us. So we have some sort of beginning intro for the video.
Go for it.
Welcome back,
welcome
everyone.
to Persona 5. For those of you who actually know what Persona 5 is, this will just be the original game. Persona 5 Royal came out recently, but we're not covering Royal. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. If you have any experience with JRPGs, you know that you don't actually get to play the game for like the first 10 hours. You're running through this casino being chased by all these FBI-looking dudes. You don't fight any of them. You don't see any of them, but you're being told that they're there.
Akira is like Joker when he's a normal person.
Yes. So Sae-Niijima is an important character because she will be interrogating you for the next possibly 50 hours of gameplay.
We're at the ending, and that we're going back to the beginning.
You are on a train in Shibuya, Japan, to start his new life in Shibuya at Shujin Academy, which, fun fact, Shujin in Japanese is the English word for inmate. So he's literally attending. And when he arrives at the house that he's supposed to be living in, nobody's home. Sojiro Sakura, and that is your caretaker. He doesn't like you already. And so he walks you into the attic. The attic is dusty and gross and filled with all sorts of boxes and shelves and stuff. And he's like, well, here's where you'll be living. You meet Principal Kabayakawa. Not important. You also meet your teacher. Also not important. And that is like the first 2 hours of the game.
Jeez.
Perfect.
Oh my gosh.
Perfect. Next
You ready
page.
for the next 78? It's your first day at school. Up on the sidewalk runs a girl who's also in the Shujin uniform. A car pulls up and the window rolls down and he looks out and he says, hey, An, you need a ride? As he drives away, you see that her face is very downtrodden and very like sad. And you're like, oh no, the girl is sad. You start talking with this other Shujin kid and you find out that his name... So you find out that this kid's name is Ryuji Sakamoto, and you find out that the driver's name is Kamoshida. Kamoshida is a teacher at Shujin Academy. He's actually the PE teacher and the coach of the volleyball team. When you make the turn down the alleyway where your school is, there's a castle there for some reason. You and Ryuji are like, this isn't right. Guess we'll explore it. You are met with multiple guards in massive metal armor. Is this some sort of like cosplay? The soldiers knock you out, and you are put in a prison cell.
This cosplay is a little too realistic, I was about to say.
This is true dungeon gone wrong.
Kamoshida is there, but he looks different. But now when you see him, he's wearing a king's robe and pink underwear, and that's it. You've trespassed on the grounds of my kingdom, and now the penalty is death. And you summon your persona. Ding, ding, roll credits. You pull out your phone again, and that app from earlier, that
the Island Designer app,
and it says, now returning to the real world. And you start talking with Ryuji, and he's like, there's no way that castle we saw was fake, right? You enter the castle one more time. When you're down there, you find a talking cat. You find Morgana.
A character I can draw. Morgana's in love with An.
I mean, who wouldn't be?
And so he's like, we gotta get out of here. You've gained a new party member. Kamoshida has an entire torture dungeon under his castle filled with Shujin volleyball students. The metaverse is an alternate reality layered on top of our reality. You can enter the metaverse using this app. Ruin is coming, and you need to use the metaverse to save the world. As a teenager. So when a person's desires become extremely distorted, they coalesce into the form of a palace. Kamoshida's desire to be number one became so distorted that it coalesced into the form of his castle. The Kamoshida we've been seeing in the metaverse is not the real Kamoshida. Okay. It is the visual representation of his desires and his soul, known as his shadow.
Hayden, what do you think about all this stuff? This is crazy.
This is crazy.
It's a little complicated.
I actually completely understand the metaverse.
Zach is like, you special. Simple mind.
And Morgana, who was a monster cat in the metaverse, turns into an actual cat in the real world.
Oh.
Even though he swears he's not a cat.
On all levels except physical, I am a human.
Kamoshida, you find out that he has been abusing An sexually
Oh.
to allow Shiho to have a position on the volleyball team.
Wait, IRL?
IRL.
That's a problem.
So Morgana says there's a way that you can change his heart. Deep in his palace is the actual coalescence of his desires. If you remove that object from the palace will collapse and he will lose all of those distorted desires in real life. And his heavy conscience from the actions he's done will cause him to admit himself to the police and go to jail.
That's the first boss fight. You got to kill Kamoshida's shadow.
You don't want to kill Kamoshida's shadow. Because
I'm sorry, I didn't mean it.
So if you destroy their image of themselves, they no longer exist in their minds, and thus they have a mental shutdown and die.
So not good. Next page.
So Morgana's like, we need to come up with code names. And that's where we get Joker.
Yes.
Yay!
Ryuji's kind of sound like my favorite so far. I kind of like
Ryuji
Ryuji.
honestly is best boy. As you're in the palace, smash cut to the entrance of the palace where Anta Kamiki walks in. Oh crap, guys! They took her! She somehow got back into the palace. In walks our party. We have to make the ruler of the palace aware of their distorted desires.
It's like Inception, where it's like their big secret is literally like a case file that you can steal.
You walk into the treasure room, and it's a crown, and you try to escape with it, but Kamoshida stops you. Boss fight ensues. The palace starts to collapse. Kamoshida comes in front of the entire school and confesses his sins and is taken away by the police.
Yay!
Mission accomplished.
This app is the real deal.
And you become the Phantom Thieves of Hearts with Joker, Skull, Mona, and Panther. So the Metaverse Navigator, you need 3 things. The name of the person, their distortion, and what is being distorted. So you find out that Ichiryu-san Madarame is an artist, a very famous artist in Japan who has made a lot of beautiful pieces. One of his most beautiful works of art that he's ever made is called the Sayuri. One of these students you happen to meet, who is actually very important. His name is
Stinky.
Yusuke Kitagawa.
We can't just let anybody into the Phantom Thieves of Hearts, can we?
The distortion is a museum. As we journey through his palace, we find out that he has been physically abusing his students, and he's actually been plagiarizing their artwork. Madarame actually took Yusuke in at the age of 3 when his mother died of a seizure. Daddy problems the game. Yeah, essentially. Peacock door with a very heavy lock. Because Madarame has the door locked, he thinks that no one can get in. But if he sees someone inside, that'll change his cognition on the door, thus changing the door in the metaverse.
In the metaverse, so
Oh
that
my
they can't.
gosh.
So it is Inception.
He's literally copying the Sayuri, selling fakes onto the black market while saying that the real one was stolen. And then everyone ends up in the metaverse, including Yusuke.
Oh, now what's his persona? I bet he has one.
He starts to realize that he knew all of this was happening. He knew all along. His code name, Fox.
Fox.
Aha!
Now we have a 5th party member, but Morgana's
Hey.
like, whoa. There's
There's
too
too
many
many.
people. They're all elemental. Physical, fire, electric, ice, wind, nuclear,
My nuclear powers, they're activating.
psychic, bless, and curse. And then you get to the end and you find where his treasure is supposed to be. It is covered with a sheet, but it looks a lot like a painting. Sayuri was painted by Yusuke's mom. It's a self-portrait. So Yusuke's like, all right, now I'm pissed. Boss fight starts. Boss fight ends. It's really easy.
There's another
Yes.
metaverse user that we don't know about.
Like a bad one?
In Shibuya, there have been a series of mental shutdowns. So when
No.
Madarame mentions this black mask, you start to immediately think about who that other person could be.
Jakun.
Akechi is a prodigy because he is a detective. He's been investigating these series of mental shutdowns.
We're going from Inception to Death Note territory.
You as Akira are like, well, I think the Phantom Thieves are just. So far, they've only taken down criminals. And he's like, that may be true, but that doesn't mean that they're not vigilantes. Did anyone catch what was wrong with that scene?
There was
Oh, he can hear Morgana talk?
You continue on. School happens. Life happens. Let's actually go to the next page because this is going to be the start of the next palace. Up next, we have an important character, Makoto Nijima.
Sai Nijima. They're related.
Makoto is Sai's younger sister. The game switches back and forth between present day and past, and it keeps giving you scenes of Sai being like, how did you do this?
A magic cat told me to send letters to people, and I just couldn't help myself.
So Makoto is the student council president of Shujin Academy. The principal has asked her to sort of step in and try to find out if the Phantom Thieves are a part of Shujin. They're being extorted by the mafia.
The Yakuza?
Not the Yakuza, but a mob.
Okay. Similar to the Yakuza.
When you're in, like, basically in a building just talking about the metaverse out loud. No problems with that, except for when Makoto literally records you talking about it. I have a proposal. I want you to change someone's heart, and if you do, I'll delete this. The mob boss, of course. The problem is they don't know his name, and Makoto, of course, doesn't know anything about that. She just thinks that they can find him, they can take care of it, but they have nothing. What are you drawing?
It's the girl, but it's just Sailor Moon with the phone.
Junya Kaneshiro. You still have nothing to go off of except for his name. You're like, okay, let's start with the distortion. He's extorting everyone for money, so it has to do something with money. Maybe like a bank? Candidate found.
He thinks he owns all of Shibuya, so when they go into the metaverse, they're already there because it's
Exactly.
It's a giant palace.
When we were in Kamoshida's palace, we saw that all of the students that were on the volleyball team they looked like the actual students. All of the people in Shibuya are walking ATMs. That is his distortion for people.
Draw an ATM with arms and legs.
That is literally what they look like. Where's the bank?
The bank's falling out of the sky.
It's flying.
Oh my gosh.
So you return to the real world and you're like puzzled. You're like, oh, how the heck do we get here? All the while in the real world, multiple occasions are happening where we cut to Makoto. And she is being told in the real world by people that she's useless. Sai is working as a prosecutor to pay for their survival. Makoto is like at the edge of her rope. They enter the metaverse. Makoto's like, well, I'm a patron of the bank, so it should let me in. Sure enough, the bank that's flying in the sky lowers itself and drops a platform so that they can all walk up. Kaneshiro just keeps blackmailing you and is like, yeah, if you don't pay me money, I'm gonna...
This guy's a loser.
He's really like
he's like a super mob boss, and he like gets off by just bullying kids.
His treasure is gold bricks. Morgana turns into a car. They pack all the gold bricks up, and then they have to escape the bank before it explodes. We're almost at a halfway point. Once we get to this halfway point, we'll have to do an episode 2. So after you complete Kaneshiro's palace, you get a text from a mysterious number. I want you to steal someone's heart. I know you're the Phantom Thieves. And their name is Futaba Sakura.
Oh, wait a minute. So Jira Sakura is Daddy Savage. Blessings to Daddy.
The guy who owns the cafe.
Wait, this is his daughter?
Yes, I want you to change your heart. And so then they're like, I guess.
Why?
So they look at the Metaverse Navigator and they're like, Futaba Sakura. And they're like, the Futaba Sakura that lives at Sojiro Saka's place. We got a hit. What is she distorted about? And
we know nothing about this woman.
Is she distorted at all?
Her palace is actually one of the most interesting to go through. Sojiro actually took her in because her mother died. Wakaba was researching into cognitive science, which is essentially studying the metaverse. We come to find out later that Wakaba was killed due to a mental shutdown. Futaba, this entire time, thought that she had killed her mother because she was so, like, she was just a child, and that her mom was struggling having to take care of her daughter as well as her research. And so she was so distorted about that it created a palace within her of that distortion, that her mother hated her. She's hearing voices and like seeing hallucinations of her mother, and it's getting worse and worse. Her palace is a pyramid in the middle of the desert. You're literally dropped in the middle of the desert. Nothing inside. Nothing except for a pyramid like 100 miles in the distance. That is how much she separates herself from people.
Wow.
What a metaphor.
This is deep.
The final boss is not Futaba. It's actually a cognitive representation of Wakaba. While the Phantom Thieves are fighting Wakaba, Futaba finds the Metaverse Navigator app on her phone. Futaba awakens to her own persona. And that is the first 30 hours of the game.
Come back for part 2 of our special expert difficulty on
Indeed.
Persona 5.
Persona 5.
Like and subscribe below. We have been expert difficulty. Thank you for watching.
Woohoo!
Eh.
Woohoo.